Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And the first semi-final has been played today between Pakistan and New Zealand, with Pakistan winning the game by 7 wickets. Now, in my preview, I'd said that I thought the side batting first would have quite a bit of an advantage in this game, especially considering where this game is being played. Now, characteristically so far at the SCG, we've seen that it is possible to lose a few wickets up top, but if you do hold your nerve as a batting side, you can get a few runs at the end and get your team up to a competitive total. And so I thought that if New Zealand or Pakistan batted first and got 150 or more, then it would be a tough chase for the side batting second. And New Zealand did win the toss and chose to bat first, which I thought was the right decision. The game started off with Finn Allen hitting a boundary off Shaheen Afridi straight down the ground. Unfortunately, his innings didn't last too long, where he was dismissed on the third ball of the game. Now, I was surprised the ball before that the umpire gave that decision that he did. I thought it was a last-minute call, which was influenced a lot by the exuberant appeal. But unfortunately, Finn Allen tried his luck in a similar fashion the very next delivery, and in this case, he was trapped in front. And I thought with the partnership of 34 that followed between Devon Conway and Kane Williamson, I thought that New Zealand were giving faith that they were pulling this out of the water after the early wicket. And considering what happened against Sri Lanka, where they were 15 for 3 in 4 overs, I thought that this was looking like a much less turbulent start, you could say. Unfortunately, though, it was a bit of a gift of a wicket at the end of the power play. Devon Conway, who was batting so well, got himself run out of a direct hit from Shardab Khan. And I think that he wanted to take strike for the next over, considering how Kane Williamson started. However, I thought that at that point in time, there wasn't really a need to take that much of a risk. As I said, at this ground so far, we've seen that if you do hold your nerve, you can get quite a decent score at the end. There are runs to be got at the end. We've seen that on 2 occasions, with New Zealand against Sri Lanka and I think also Pakistan against South Africa, where they recovered from 43 for 4. So I think that it was a very unnecessary thing from him to do. And I thought that dismissal did put Pakistan very much back in the game at that point. And probably the joint biggest wicket, along with Devon Conway, and especially with his exploits in this tournament, Glenn Phillips has been brilliant this tournament. And with the recoveries that we've seen him stage, I think that he was a huge wicket at this stage. And he was dismissed soon after, I think, at the end of the 8th over after bowling of Mohammad Nawaz. So with Devon Conway and Glenn Phillips dismissed by the end of the 8th over, I thought that Pakistan well on top at that stage. And you'd think the 2 players who would be most likely to script a recovery were dismissed. I still didn't think New Zealand were out of the game. I still thought that, yes, overall, Kane Williamson played an innings which you would deem as slow. But I thought that with the batting depth that New Zealand have, you've got, they lost 4 wickets and Jimmy Neesham woke up to bat at 6. Had Kane Williamson been dismissed earlier, Jimmy Neesham, who, yes, he plays well in ICC events, but I think that, but so far he hasn't done too much either. Had he been dismissed early, then you've got Mitchell Santner to bat for the last few overs. So I thought Kane Williamson not getting out, despite the fact that you may deem his innings as slow, I thought it was actually vital to forming that partnership with Darryl Mitchell, who played very well, 53 off 35. I thought a big part of his innings was the way he took on Shardab Khan. And on a pitch where, especially by the second innings, there was some assistance for the spinners, Shardab Khan went for none for 33 in his 4 overs. I think by far his most underwhelming performance in this T20 World Cup so far. Although for a supposed off day, that really isn't too bad. So I thought that they did quite well, especially Darryl Mitchell, to get the runs that he did off Shardab Khan. And overall, I thought that partnership with Kane Williamson got them to a foundation where 150 was possible, and they got 152 for 4. And as I said in my preview, I thought that was a good score on this wicket, and with the discipline that New Zealand have shown in the past with their bowling attack, I thought that they were in pole position to take the game, especially with what we saw from the Pakistan openers in the previous game against Bangladesh. So the second innings started, and from the very first ball, New Zealand just weren't in it. I was very surprised by the delivery first up from Trent Boult, and since then, I think it was, yes, it says 2 for 33 and 4, but I thought especially in the power play, it was probably one of his worst bowling performances in recent times. I think with the likes of Trent Boult, it seems like a huge surprise if he goes for runs, and it is. But I think today, both him and Tim Southee at the start, they didn't really put any pressure on the Pakistan batsmen. Lockie Ferguson today didn't have a great day either, went at above 9 and over. And especially with what the openers have done so far in this tournament, I thought that, yes, credit to them. I thought a huge factor in kind of getting them on their way was Rizwan's phenomenal running between the wickets. He instigated those quick singles to be run. And it did two things. I thought we've seen him be bogged down when bowlers have targeted that off-stump line. I thought that with some swing on offer, Trent Boult would be looking to do that. Yes, he didn't get it right today at the start, but I thought that also with Mohammad Rizwan running for the deliveries that were kind of on off stump, it made sure he didn't get bogged down. Had he not run for a few deliveries, he may have kind of seen the bowlers maybe get more confidence in bowling to kind of bowling the ball in that same place. And as we've seen before, we have seen a few 4-off 12s when that is the case. But I thought today the running meant that he also wasn't bogged down, and Babar Azam could also kind of find his way back to fluency. And after scoring, 28 off the first 17 balls, I think Rizwan scored 29 off the last 26, but Babar Azam during that phase scored, I think, 39 of 30, which was enough on the day. So I thought Rizwan's running between the wickets helped both those players out. And with 150 odd being kind of their comfort zone to chase, and with New Zealand not getting it right at all with the ball, New Zealand were never really in this innings. I thought Pakistan bossed this innings, playing within their comfort zone as well. But I thought that Rizwan's running between the wickets was something which certainly did help both those players. And with the foundation that they got, another 100-plus partnership for these two in T20I cricket, their 8th in T20I cricket. I think it's the most by any opening pair. Even though I think they were 132 for 2 and 17 overs, but it was a cakewalk at that stage. And I thought they were 19 or 15 at one point. I thought New Zealand could have made a bit of more of a game out of it than they did. But Lockie Ferguson, I thought in an innings where nothing went right for New Zealand because of their own doing, Lockie Ferguson, I thought, bowled a very disappointing ball, the short ball that Mohammad Harris hit for 6. And that pretty much ended the game then and there. So a brilliant win for Pakistan. They effectively almost had a perfect game today. I thought that 152 for 4 was nothing to be scoffed at from New Zealand, but with the way that Pakistan have chased this down, and especially with the way their openers played in this game, I think they would take solace from that going into the game at the MCG, considering especially with the India-Pakistan game at the start, and I do think that those two sides will play the final. Especially with the India-Pakistan game at the start, we saw the ball, especially in the first innings, moved around quite a bit. It may be that kind of 150 kind of score, and you'd think that these two playing this way that they did today will give Pakistan a lot of kind of solace going into that game. Although, as I said, with the way that they did slow down, teams do still have a chance, I think. But today, with how New Zealand bowled, I thought that it wasn't really going to make a difference at all, whatever they did. I thought the spinners didn't go too badly. Mitchell Santner 1 for 26, Ish Sodhi none for 26. But I thought the start from the paces meant that this wasn't a situation where the spinners were looking forward to putting pressure on these two. I think the opportunity was there, but with how things were going, that opportunity just never really, kind of the effect never really materialized. Now on the India versus England game. So I thought I wasn't that specific when I was previewing the New Zealand versus Pakistan game in my last video. And I'll try and be more specific in this case. I think the last few results at the Adelaide Oval, especially in the last three, I don't think you can take the last two results into account when previewing this game. I think the Adelaide Oval, when it's hosting a day game, has played way differently than it has done in a night game. For example, when India played Bangladesh. In a night game, the ball has kind of seemed to come onto the bat, whereas especially in the games where the Netherlands and South Africa played in Bangladesh versus Pakistan, we saw there was quite some assistance for the slower bowlers. So I don't think you can kind of take those two games into account when previewing this one. I think that both teams will be looking to preferably bat first and bat the opposition out of the game. And in terms of the side that I think will be able to compete the most on the day, I think it is India without question. If you're comparing their batsmen and their bowlers, I think especially with the bat, there have been 9 50s in the group stage for India in this tournament, whereas for England there have only been 2. And with the ball, I think if you're looking at the Indian attack, they have players who on the day you're more wary of as an opposition. Mohammad Shami and Arshdeep Singh have especially impressed me a lot. And the supposed bowler who's been bowling, not so great, you could say, supposedly, has gone at 7.52 on wickets that have not been great for the finger spinner at all, and that is our Russian. I have no idea why he's been getting kind of so much speculation around him to say he supposedly hasn't been bowling that well, when pretty much no one else, no other finger spinner could have done more than what he's done so far with the conditions that he's got to work with. Bhuvneshwar Kumar has gone at 5.4, taking 4 wickets in 5 games, bowling 3 maidens. It's ridiculous. But I think that in Adelaide, like we saw against Bangladesh, he may struggle slightly. Let's see how he goes in tomorrow's game. But looking at this Indian attack, especially what those main 4, I think that as an opposition, you are wary of them, despite the fact that England have got some good bowlers there. I think Mark Wood won't play the game tomorrow. They've got Adil Rashid as well, who's gone at 6.56 in 4 games. He's had a very good start. I think that with Sam Curran has now become their go-to death bowler and has had some quite a good stretch of T20 games under his belt in the last while. But I think there's no bowler, especially if you take Mark Wood out of the side, there's no bowler that's really scaring the opposition. And I think even if Mark Wood did play tomorrow's game, I think that the likes of Rohit Sharma may not actually mind with kind of high pace with the ball coming onto the bat, especially with the conditions. So I think even if he did play tomorrow, the Indian side wouldn't really mind too much. And I think with Chris Jordan playing in the side, I think you will, of course, get less of that pace. But even then, I don't think they would mind too much either. So it may sound biased, of course, but I am looking at this England side and thinking, in the New Zealand versus Pakistan game, you thought those sides were relatively kind of equal. You thought if either side does this, they have a higher chance of winning. And I did think that 150 odd will kind of go a long way in determining the side batting first to win the game. Unfortunately, New Zealand did not get things right by any stretch in the second innings. But in this case, I don't know what England could do in general against this Indian team to actually kind of help them win this game. Maybe attacking Bhuvneshwar Kumar will be, I think, something which will be a long way in helping them get that start that they would want. It depends who plays. I think Akshar Patel or Harshal Patel. I do think that England will fancy their chances against either of those two. But the likes of Arshdeep Singh and Mohammad Shami are in great bowling form. And R. Ashwin as well, I think, will have a good game tomorrow, despite the fact that, yes, there aren't many there isn't a lot for him to work with in these conditions, but he is a genius and he's gone at 7.52 despite all that. So I do think India go into this game as favourites, but preferably both sides would want to bat first. But I feel like especially if India do bat first, England will find it difficult to contain them, I think. But let's see what happens tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?